Can you all hear me if this is the volume I speak at? Cool. Like a lot of people, when I was a young child, I had a strong affinity for non-human animals. If you'd have asked me what job I would have wanted when I grew up, I would have told you I wanted to become a vet, because in my young mind, taking care of animals in need, looking after them, protecting them, that seemed like one of the kindest and most fulfilling things a person could do, and I still think that today. And so you can probably imagine my reaction when I first learned of the charity or organisation known as the RSPCA, Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Now these guys, I thought, these must be the good guys. Animal defenders and friends to all non-human creatures. But the truth wouldn't become apparent to me until I was 2 decades older and wiser. If the RSPCA are in the business of preventing cruelty as their name implies, why could their logo be found proudly displayed on the dismembered corpse of an animal whose life was stolen from them? What was going on here? You see, the RSPCA actually allow their name to be used for a farm assurance scheme called RSPCA Assured. Visiting their website, they state that RSPCA Assured is the only assurance provider dedicated solely to animal welfare, and they advise the reader to look for their logo on products and menus across the UK. If you continue to browse this website, you'll even find a range of recipes for animal-based meals, which to me is a clear sign of encouragement and approval in regards to consuming animal products and using animals as commodities. Now, for anyone who cares about the rights and well-being of non-human animals, this assurance scheme is no doubt going to cause a negative reaction. Disbelief, anger, frustration, sadness, confusion, these are just some of the natural reactions one might have to learning that the largest and most well-respected animal charity in the world is so content to see innocent animals murdered that they'll even offer their name and branding to be used to advertise the products of this violence. It is my strong belief that now is the time for the RSPCA to change, though their reluctance to do so is staggering. Since spring of last year, I began attempting to contact whoever I could at RSPCA Assured to start a discourse on the issue. I wrote emails, made phone calls, even started a petition and began to create videos, memes and other online content to bolster my presence in the hopes that someone would listen. Surely those working for RSPCA Assured shared my values, at least to a degree, and would be open to engaging. Well, this was where I learned of another major issue with the RSPCA, their commitment to silencing criticism. At first, communication did begin to happen, and I was even granted a lengthy conversation with a prominent senior figure at RSPCA Assured. Unfortunately, this conversation only cemented just how dire the situation was, as she confirmed that her colleagues working at RSPCA Assured didn't care about the rights or well-being of animals in the slightest. They even made damning remarks about the farmers who are part of the scheme, yet when I pointed out that this was all the more reason for the RSPCA to part ways with these animal abusers, she refused to listen to reason and became erratic and hard to communicate with. Since this conversation, any further attempts at communication with RSPCA Assured have been futile. Emails are left unreplied to, and any comments left on social media are deleted and profiles are blocked. I don't think I need to elaborate on just how harmful and problematic the action of silencing critics online and creating an echo chamber of opinion can be. For the rest of my time talking to you all today, I want to briefly outline 5 points that I think are crucial for you to understand why I personally am so determined to see the RSPCA change their tune when it comes to how animals ought to be treated. These points in the order I'll cover them are speciesism, practices, incentive, influence and mutual benefit. I hope after hearing these 5 points you'll be in agreement with me that the time for change is now. So for the first point, speciesism, let me actually start by quoting the RSPCA for you. These words are taken from their website. Our vision is to one day live in a world where all animals are respected and treated with compassion, and that is what we work towards every day. That's a direct quote. Not a world where dogs are respected, not where cats are respected, not where wildlife is respected, but all animals are respected and treated with compassion. Now believe me, I would be bent over laughing at the absurdity and falsehood of this quote if the surrounding context were not so morbid and upsetting. To give a basic example of how disproportionate their commitment to promoting kindness to all species is, we need only look at the messaging they promote to the public. Go online and search for social media posts made by the RSPCA about dogs, and you'll see they do a fantastic job of promoting adoption. So, encouraging kindness and respect for dogs, check. Now, May 4th is International Respect for Chickens Day. So in the world of social media, that is the ideal time for them to encourage kindness towards those animals as well. Well, on May 4th last year, just after I had begun my RSPCA vegan campaign, RSPCA Assured posted a recipe for a chicken pie. I do not think their timing was coincidental. We can see more clearly the RSPCA speciesism at play as we move into my second point, which is the practices. For this point, I want to talk about just a small selection of practices that the RSPCA either advise or condone, and as I do so, I would like for you to keep in mind the previous quote about treating all animals with respect and kindness. As we've just mentioned chickens, let's start with them. I think most, if not all of you here today, are well aware of what goes on behind closed doors in the egg industry and the unfortunate fate of the animals who find themselves part of that system. It might surprise some of you, however, to learn that the RSPCA is content with even the most egregious practices within the egg industry. The culling of male chicks is performed in the UK using primarily one of two methods: maceration or gassing. Again, I'm sure all of you already know this, but a macerator is essentially just a large blender, a spinning blade which these freshly hatched animals are thrown into to be disposed of as waste. The RSPCA states, when carried out effectively and competently, this method may be considered more humane than gassing. Not a position I think they'd be comfortable with if the animal in question were a puppy or a kitten instead. Let me also highlight their preposterous use of the word humane, a word synonymous with compassion and benevolence, when describing slicing a harmless baby bird into ribbons, all done for the acquisition of the taste of an egg. Of course, all the other moral concerns with egg production that are associated with the female birds are also going to be present in any RSPCA assured operation as well, such as the selective breeding and eventual violent slaughter of the birds who are no longer deemed profitable. Other heinous crimes to animal rights condoned and even encouraged by RSPCA assured include the gassing to death of 6-month-old pigs for the production of bacon and other known carcinogens, where these young, intelligent, social and emotional beings' final experience of existence is anything from 15 seconds to over a minute of screaming and thrashing in agony in a dark dungeon as they burn from the inside out. The RSPCA even have written guidelines on how to treat an unborn calf showing signs of life after their mother was just bled to death for her flesh to be sold. Any fetus showing signs of life is to be removed from the maternal carcass, and I quote, "It must be immediately killed with an appropriate captive bolt or by a blow to the head with a suitable blunt instrument." That's the world's largest animal charity giving instructions to beat baby animals to death. I could talk for hours about the things they condone and engage in that would make any true animal lover sick to their stomach, but I'll leave it at just these examples. And please remember, everything I've just described these animals going through will of course result in a product with that RSPCA assured stamp of approval, to convince consumers the product in question somehow came from humane treatment of a sentient being now dead and wrapped in plastic. Which brings me to my next point, incentive. Why would they do this? Prevention of cruelty to animals should entail speaking out against their use as commodities, but instead they directly engage with and encourage animal suffering where it pertains to the production of material goods. Why is that? The answer should come at no surprise: it's money. If we look at the assured scheme, we can see that not only do animal farmers need to pay for their products to get the assured stamp, but the levy involved actually means that the more animals killed by a farmer signed up with the scheme, the more money the RSPCA assured scheme will generate as a result. Earning money off the exploitation of the very animals they claim to protect is even more unsettling when we consider how little this extra revenue is needed to conduct their work. Somehow being simultaneously the largest animal non-profit in the world, yet having CEO annual incomes of £140,000 a year. Anyone can see the Assured scheme is driven by greed and not by need. With my final 2 points, namely influence and mutual benefit, I hope I can offer an alternative narrative to one of greed that hopefully benefits everyone. I think we're all aware of the influence and popularity of the RSPCA. In fact, if they were not so influential and well trusted, the use of their name for the Assured scheme wouldn't hold any weight to begin with. Just like I did for many years, the majority of people still see the RSPCA as the good guys in the context of animal cruelty. As an organisation, they have an annual revenue of over £140 million. We're used to seeing their commercials, everyone knows their name, and almost everyone holds them in high regard. And how do they use this attention to help farmed animals? They don't. So many eyes are on them, and so many have admiration for them as an organisation, yet they fail to capitalise on this to bring about massive positive change. If a bare minimum amount of time and effort were offered by the RSPCA to promote veganism as the lifestyle to live by, it would make the efforts of activists like myself look almost pointless in comparison. They simply have more influence than I ever could, and in fact I struggle to think of any other single body in their uniquely advantageous position. They already have core values that suggest veganism. Protecting animals from cruelty, promoting kindness to all animals, these are vegan values, and yet they will not make that jump. Now, it's natural to feel angered by all this, but I like to keep in mind the principle of Hanlon's razor, which is the rule of thumb that states, never attribute to malice that which adequately can be explained by stupidity. I believe the people working for RSPCA and RSPCA Assured are not malicious people. They actually do care somewhat about how animals are treated. I just think they cannot remove the blinders they are wearing, put there by our carnist culture. The idea of not using and abusing animals for food seems so foreign to them that it isn't even entertained. So instead, they look for ways to gain from it. I want you to help me remove those blinders for the sake of all the animals whose lives could be spared by a change in the RSPCA's approach to farmed animals. And this is where it ties into the mutual benefit. Right now, we are at a very strange place in time. Just recently, we as a nation legally acknowledged animals as sentient beings, and yet we continue to subject them to lives of suffering and misery and even rob them of those lives for no justifiable reason. We have all experienced firsthand what can happen when even a virus with a low mortality rate emerges, and yet we continue to factory farm these animals as well, increasing the risk of future pandemics. We eat flesh and drink milk knowing they can harm our health, and we devastate both our oceans and our lands in our continued drive to kill and consume more and more animals. Nothing, not a single thing about our current actions makes any sense. And the rise of veganism reflects that. People are changing, and this change cannot be reversed. How long before it's not just me who is appalled by the RSPCA's lack of action and their engagement with and encouragement of animal farming, but instead it's 5% of the UK population? And what about when that number continues to grow? How will the RSPCA hold credibility then? Before they are exposed in the near future and their reputation is permanently damaged, it's time to join the change. In fact, I personally believe they stand to earn the most public favour by becoming forerunners in the animal rights movement. Animal rights is one of the fastest growing social justice movements of our generation. And if the world's largest animal charity intends to spend this moment remaining silent, or in the case of the Assured scheme, encouraging the consumption of animals, then truly there is no future for the RSPCA as a respected organisation. I do think this would be a great loss, as despite the atrocities they engage with, they are still those most capable of protecting animals as well. It's time for them to change, and it's up to us to inspire or even demand that they do. Thank you.